Nobody showed up to my graduation, not one familiar face in the crowd. My name echoed through the speakers, but the reserved for family row stayed empty, sunlight bouncing off cold metal seats. I smiled for the photo anyway, pretending it didn't sting. 3 days later, my mom's text appeared. Need $100 for your sister's Sweet 16. No congrats, just a demand. So I sent $1 with congrats. Then I changed the locks. For the first time, my apartment was silent, but not for long. The day of my graduation was supposed to be the one I finally felt seen. The stadium shimmered in May sunlight, a blur of navy gowns and proud families waving phones in the air. When my name echoed Camilla Elaine Reed, master of data analytics, I looked up instinctively, searching the front rows. The reserved for family section glared back at me, empty and metallic under the light. Not even a shadow where my parents should have been. I forced a smile for the photo, holding my diploma a little too tight, my cheeks aching from pretending. Around me, laughter bloomed like confetti. Students kissed their parents, friends cried into bouquets. I stood alone beside a stranger's family, taking pictures, my smile shrinking as the camera clicked. Afterward, I lingered in the courtyard, scrolling my phone just to look busy. Ruby, my classmate, found me and squealed, "You did it!" Her parents snapped photos of us together, beaming. She turned, scanning the crowd. "Where's your family running late?" I lied. The lie came easy, years of practice. By the time I reached the parking lot, the sky was turning gold. Balloons floated above car roofs, kids shouting, horns honking. I sat in my beat-up Civic and watched it all from behind the wheel. For a second, I imagined them walking toward me, Mom waving Avery in her glitter sneakers, Dad holding a bouquet. Then the vision vanished under the sound of engines starting. The truth is, I shouldn't have been surprised. My parents had skipped my college graduation, too. Back then, Mom said Avery had finals. Dad didn't even call. It was always some reason, always a smaller, shinier priority. I'd spent my teenage years trying to earn love like it was a scholarship, working 2 jobs, sending money home, saying yes to every request. When I was 16, I wore a brown Starbucks apron at dawn, serving caramel macchiatos to lawyers and nurses. Mom used to text, "Thanks, honey. Avery needs piano lessons." Or, "She has a field trip, just a little extra okay." The first time she said, "You're our pride," I believed her. I thought love sounded like appreciation. Now I know it sounded like obligation. When I got into grad school, I told myself this degree would change everything. That if I just achieved enough, maybe she'd see me not as the backup plan, not as the steady paycheck disguised as a daughter, but as her equal. I didn't know then that even success could be twisted into another reason to take. 3 days after the ceremony, when the cap and gown still hung by the door, that message appeared on my phone. Need $100 for your sister's Sweet 16. No congratulations, no curiosity about how it went. Just numbers, a deadline, and that same quiet expectation. I stared at the text for a long time. And that was the moment something inside me, something small, tired and long ignored, finally stood up. I stared at that message for so long, the phone dimmed and locked itself. $2, $100. The exact number sat there like a command, not a request. I should have been numb by now. For years, money had been the language my family used instead of love. But that day, it didn't slide off me the way it used to. Maybe it was the quiet after graduation, the echo of all those clapping hands that weren't for me. Maybe it was just the simple fact that I'd finally run out of reasons to keep buying affection that never existed. I opened my banking app, saw my savings, barely $3,000, and felt something in me harden. I typed in $1, added a note, "Congrats," and hit send. For a long minute, I just sat there, the word sent glowing on the screen. Then I opened the drawer by the front door, pulled out the spare key my mother insisted on keeping for emergencies, and dropped it into the trash. That night, I called a locksmith. He arrived an hour later, an older man with a soft voice and tools that clinked like wind chimes when he worked. The new lock clicked into place, solid and final. When he left, I stood in the doorway for a moment, breathing in the faint smell of oil and metal. It was the first boundary I'd ever built in my life. The next day, sunlight filled my small apartment. I brewed coffee, watched the steam curl, and for the first time I didn't flinch at the silence. It was mine. No one could walk in. No one could ask for anything. Peace had a sound. It was this. Until the knocking started. Firm, rhythmic, persistent. I froze. It wasn't Mrs. Patel, my landlord she always called first. When I looked through the peephole, 2 uniforms filled the hallway. Denver police one said calm and professional. "Miss Reed." I opened the door, heart racing. Yes. The taller officer, a black man in his 30s, showed his badge. "We received a call from your mother. She said you've been acting erratically, changing locks, not answering calls, and that she's worried you might harm yourself." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd it circled back to tragic. She did what I asked quietly. His eyes softened. "We just need to confirm you're okay. Mind if we step in?" I let them in. The apartment was spotless, coffee mug on the table, laptop open with my project on the screen, diploma framed on the wall. I gestured around. "Do I look unstable to you?" The officer's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Not even close, ma'am." He asked a few questions about work stress, family. I answered honestly. Just finished grad school. Working on job applications. No medical issues. Just boundaries. He nodded. "We'll file the report as no concern. But if your mother calls again, you can reference this visit." They turned to leave, and just before stepping out, he added, "Sometimes when people start standing up for themselves, others panic. Happens more than you'd think." When the door closed, I leaned against it, shaking, not from fear, but fury. My mother hadn't just crossed a line, she'd declared war on it. That night, I sat on the couch, the police report still fresh in my inbox. I replayed the years of manipulation, the way she'd guilt me into sending money, the way she'd say, "Family helps family," whenever I hesitated. It had always been about control, not care. I didn't know what she'd done yet. Only that if she was willing to use the police to humiliate me, there was no limit to what came next. The silence in my apartment didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like the pause before a storm. And I was done waiting to get struck. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise, the city still quiet under a soft haze. My phone lay face down on the table beside the police report. I hadn't heard from my mother since the night she sent them to my door, but I knew her silence wasn't peace, it was strategy. I made coffee and opened my laptop, intending to lose myself in job applications. Instead, I opened my banking app. A pit formed in my stomach. 2 new credit inquiries blinked back at me, Capital One and Discover, both recent, both unfamiliar. My chest tightened. I hadn't applied for any new cards. I clicked through to my credit report. 2 accounts had been opened in my name. My social security number, my address, but not this address. My parents' house in Littleton? I froze. The balances were already climbing, thousands spent. Then I saw the transactions: Cherry Creek events, Denver DJ agency, Glam Studio. My mother's text came rushing back like a gunshot: "Need $200 for your sister's Sweet 16. It wasn't a request. It was a setup. I called the number on the statement, my voice shaking but steady. "This is Camilla Reed. I need to report identity theft." The woman on the line verified my information, paused, and said, "This account was opened in person at our Littleton branch last month. Co-applicant Linda M. Reed." For a moment, everything went still. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, even my breath. "Ma'am," she continued carefully, "we'll flag this for fraud investigation. You'll receive forms to complete within 24 hours. When the call ended, I sat staring at the screen. It was all there: my mother's signature, her phone number, her address. She hadn't just used me for money. She'd become me to get it. I opened my voice recorder. In Colorado, one-party consent meant I could legally record our next call. I dialed her number. She picked up after 3 rings, her tone sharp. "So you're alive?" "Mom," I said evenly, "I found 2 credit cards under my name, both using your address." "Do you want to explain that?" She laughed, a hollow, practiced sound. "Oh, that I was helping you build credit. You should be grateful. By paying for Avery's Sweet 16, stop dramatizing. It's family money. What's yours is ours." "No," I said softly. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is under investigation. The silence on the line was instant, heavy, stunned. Then came the sound of her quick inhale. You wouldn't dare. I already did. I ended the call, saved the recording, and labeled it Boundaries. May 17th, 2025. Outside, the morning light spilled across the floor, catching the edges of my diploma and the new lock on the door. 2 pieces of proof that I'd earned everything on my own, and now, finally, I was protecting it. For the first time, the silence in my apartment felt powerful. It wasn't the pause before a storm anymore. It was the storm, and I was finally the one holding the thunder. I met them at a diner in Highlands Ranch neutral ground halfway between their house and my peace. The kind of place with cracked leather booths and coffee that never tasted fresh, but it was perfect for what I needed: public quiet and impossible to scream in. They arrived 15 minutes late. My mother first in a floral dress and sunglasses like armor. My father trailing behind, smaller than I remembered. Avery followed, phone in hand, thumbs flying. The golden child never looked up. Camilla, Mom said sharply, sliding into the booth across from me. You really made us drive all the way here for dinner. We're not eating, I said. My voice surprised me, steady, cold. We're talking. The waitress came by, poured coffee, and disappeared. I slid a brown folder across the table. 2 credit cards opened under my name. Capital One and Discover. Both tied to your address. Both used for Avery's Sweet 16. Mom's smile barely twitched. Oh, that. Honey, I did it for you. You need credit history. I was helping. Helping, I said softly. You forged my signature. She waved her hand dismissively. Don't make this dramatic. It's family. You've always been so ungrateful. Do you think the world doesn't know who paid for your education? I laughed, a sharp sound that turned every head in the diner. You mean me? I paid for it with every check, every double shift, every loan you told me to take while you used my college fund for Avery's prom dress. Avery groaned. Here we go again. I turned to her. That silver dress you wore for your party? You danced in it on a card opened in my name. Enjoy the spotlight. Her eyes darted away. Mom said you agreed. Mom's voice sliced through. Enough! You don't talk to your sister that way. I didn't steal from you, Camila. I borrowed. For the family. You used my identity, I said, quieter now. You called the police on me because I changed my locks. You tried to paint me unstable so you could keep control. That ends today. Dad finally spoke, his voice small. Sweetheart, your mother just got carried away. Let's not blow this up. We can fix it privately. I pushed the folder closer. There's no fixing it privately. The bank already knows. There's an open investigation. Mom's eyes snapped up, all the color draining from her face. You did what I reported: the fraud. The accounts are frozen. The bank has your signature, your phone number, your address. You'll be hearing from them soon. The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. Even the diner hum dimmed as if the air itself was listening. You'll regret this, she hissed. You're destroying this family over a misunderstanding. No, Mom, I said, standing. You destroyed it the moment you decided my name was worth more to you than my love. I left the cash for my coffee on the table and walked out before she could answer. Outside, the air smelled like rain. I sat in my car for a long moment, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My hands were shaking, but my chest felt light, almost hollow, the kind of hollow that could fill with peace. That night, Cherry Creek glittered in purple and silver, the big night for Avery's Sweet 16. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. I already knew how it would end. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Miss Reed, a crisp female voice said, This is Lauren Stein, legal representative for Capital One in Colorado. I'm calling to inform you the bank has escalated your fraud report. Our internal team has coordinated with local law enforcement to verify transactions tonight at Cherry Creek events. You're not required to attend, but we wanted you notified. My throat tightened. You're sending police to the venue. Yes, ma'am. Standard procedure. We'll document and confirm the charges. I thanked her, hung up, and sat back. Through my open window, I could hear faint music drifting from downtown, a celebration about to unravel. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A text from Avery. "Are you insane? The police just showed up." The DJ stopped. Everyone's staring. Mom's freaking out. Then another. "They're saying her name. The bank guy said your name. What did you do?" I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Meanwhile, across town, 2 officers entered the glowing banquet hall. No sirens, just calm authority cutting through the neon haze. A banker followed holding a folder thick with receipts and contracts. "Good evening," one officer said, voice even. "We're here to verify a report of credit card fraud associated with this event." The charges were made using an account under the name Camilla Reed. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras lifted. My mother froze near the cake table, color draining from her face. "There must be a mistake," she said, voice trembling. The banker opened the folder, reading aloud. "Primary applicant Linda M. Reed. Cosigner unauthorized. The transaction records indicate misuse of another person's identity." Gasps. Someone whispered, "Isn't that her daughter's name?" Mom's lips parted, but no sound came. Avery stood in the center of the floor, eyes wet, whispering, "Mom, what did you do?" The officer's tone remained neutral. "We're not arresting anyone tonight. This is just documentation for the bank's case, but we'll need to take copies of the receipts and ID verification." In the silence that followed, the only sound was the flicker of camera flashes, half the guests capturing it, half pretending not to. Within minutes, the DJ unplugged his equipment. The banner that read Avery's Sweet 16, Born to Shine, drooped under the weight of the humid air. The room emptied in slow waves of whispers and pity. By the time my mother stepped outside, rain had begun to fall soft and relentless. Back in my apartment, I stood by the window and watched lightning pulse above the city. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I just let the quiet wrap around me, the sound of justice subtle and absolute. For years, I thought silence was what weakness sounded like. That night, I realized it was victory. 3 days later, the storm had passed, but the wreckage stayed. An email arrived from Capital One, fraud investigation resolved. Primary applicant Linda M. Reed has acknowledged unauthorized use and agreed to repay $8 for $12 in full. One sentence. No apology, no drama. Just the truth finally on paper. Word spread fast. In a suburb like Littleton, gossip moves faster than justice. People whispered in grocery aisles and at church. "Did you hear about the Reeds? Something with a bank and the Sweet 16? Avery's party video, 30 Seconds of Chaos, police and disbelief hit 500,000 views before she locked her accounts." My father was quietly reprimanded at work for letting their mail and financial statements go to his company address. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't reply to any of their messages. Not out of anger, out of exhaustion. I was done explaining what should have been obvious. I filled out the FTC forms, froze my credit, and closed every account my mother ever touched. Then I printed the final confirmation letter and pinned it on my wall right beside my framed diploma and the locksmith's receipt. 3 documents side by side, proof of effort, proof of protection, proof of freedom. That night I brewed tea, opened the window, and let Denver's night air spill in. The city hummed below, alive and uncaring. For the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It healed. 6 months later, autumn settled over Denver streets gold with fallen leaves, the air crisp and forgiving. I'd started a new job at Nova Data Labs, surrounded by people who saw me for what I built, not what I could give. On my wall hung 3 things: my diploma, my new employee badge, and the old lock I once replaced. Together they told one story: how I finally chose myself. If you've ever had to set a boundary just to breathe again, you're not alone. Tell me where you're watching from so I know how many of us finally changed the locks.